Around this time last year, I did a video called the top 12 anime-inspired Vita games to look out for this year. The video did fairly well by my standards, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to do it again this year. This year we're going to step it up a notch by looking at the top 16 games coming out this year for the Vita. This year isn't quite as good a year for the Vita as last year and the year before were, but there's still some things that you should look out for. Why are we looking at 16 instead of 12? I don't know. I found 16, and I didn't really see a reason to cut them down to 12, just to meet an arbitrary number. Look at you judging me, acting like there are rules or something to this whole thing. Psh, I ain't following nobody's rules. So, for those who don't know, or for those who didn't watch last year, I'm not going to sort them by any sort of ranking order. Instead, I'm going to sort them by release date. There are many other anime-inspired games out there, but I'm just going to list the ones that I've kind of had my eye on or seen recently. So if you don't see a game that you've had your eye on, it's just because I haven't really been following it or I haven't really seen anything on it. Last thing I'll note is these are mainly anime-styled RPGs, so if you're not really into the whole, like, Japanese anime thing, you're not gonna find anything you like here. If you're more into, like, shooters, or horror games, or survival, that kind of thing, probably not gonna find it here. This is mainly just for people who are looking for anime-styled RPG games. With that out of the way, let's take a look at our first game. First game we're going to look at is Criminal Girls Invite Only, and oh man, is this a way to start off a list. This is the most controversial game that's been released this year so far. This is a pretty basic RPG with a pretty neat twist on it. Your characters will suggest what action they want to take in battle, and you have to choose the action that you think is best suited for the situation. This is a pretty unique idea, and the main reason that I bought the game, because it's not so much like you are just cookie-cuttering doing the same actions over and over again. Sometimes your girls just won't suggest the thing that you want them to, and you just have to select based on what you believe would be the best scenario to play out. However, the controversy comes in the form of the level up system. So, for those who don't know, the way you teach your girls new techniques is you put them through something called motivation. Motivation is pretty much dressing them up in something humiliating and torturing them. There's really not a better way to put it. That's what you're doing. The idea is the girls here are girls who died in the real world before they could actually grow up and commit some kind of crime. Instead of just throwing them into the underworld, they're being given the chance to go through a test to see if they can be reformed and given another chance at life. So you, playing as the reformation officer, like I said before, pretty much put them in something kind of sexual and you torture them. You either spank them or you shock them or a whole bunch of other things. I know it sounds awful. It's really not as bad as people made it out to be. I think it was mainly just the idea and the fact that the girls look so young. They look very, very young. Honestly, we were surprised just to get this game out in English, but the way that NIS America decided to kind of meet people middle ground was they released a sort of censored version here. This is the American version. They obscured things with kind of a pink fog, so it was, I don't know, a little more censored, I guess, and they took out a lot of the sounds that the girls would make during the motivation. I've got a whole lot more to say on this, but I want to start wrapping this up. We've got like 15 other games to look at. Basically, on one side you have feminists who are saying that this is immoral and wrong and we shouldn't be letting people play stuff like this, and on this other side of the fence you've got a bunch of gamers who are like, you shouldn't just censor this kind of stuff because of freedom of speech, and we should have the freedom to play whatever we want. Both are making pretty decent arguments, and I'm not really going to go into my thoughts because I think I should save that for the review. But, you know, it's something worth mentioning. Whether you want to see the unique RPG aspects, or you just want to see what all this controversy is about, I recommend picking up Criminal Girls Invite Only if you're an RPG fan. Honestly, if you're thinking of picking this game up as fat material, just YouTube it and save yourself the money. I mean, come on guys, really? I can't believe that was the very first game. Moving swiftly on, if anybody knows me, they know that I am a Hyperdimension Neptunia fan. For those who missed out on it, because honestly the first one wasn't that good and the other ones didn't get much press, it's a kind of parody on the console war where each of the consoles is represented by a hot chick, and that's it. The series have really good video game referential humor, and they've gotten a little more ecchi over the years. This year it looks like they're branching out and trying out a bunch of other styles of gaming, not just RPGs, and the first one we're talking about is a tactical RPG. Even if you're not really a Neptunia fan, this is a pretty fun game to play. They try to mix up the gameplay by having each stage have some sort of little gimmick that you have to play around to make it so that you're not just using the exact same moves and stuff over and over again. You actually have to plan ahead, plan out what you're going to do. If you're a Neptunia fan and you happen to like noir like I did, then you definitely need to pick this game up. If you're a strategy RPG fan, then I recommend at least looking into it. You might find something that you like. Tokyo Twilight Ghost Hunters is a sim-style RPG from a pretty unexpected company. This game was actually made by the people who did Deadly Premonition, a very classic sleeper hit on the PS3 that not very many people played, but I did and I loved it. The story is pretty standard. You know somebody who can see ghosts and you're trying to capture the ghosts. From what I can see, there's also some strategic elements to it, but for the most part it's just a sim game about ghosts, which is okay with me, and I do plan on picking this game up, especially since it's made by the people who made Deadly Premonition. One of the most unique things about this game, I think, is they've done something with the dialogue options, where you're not just picking from a list of options, you're picking an emotion to go along with a sense, and then applying it. So, for those who are confused, let's say you pick, the emotion of love, and you pick the sense of touch, and it could lead to you touching somebody's cheek or being kind of romantic. Or if you choose anger and sight, it's like giving an angry look to somebody. I think that's a really neat mechanic, and I can't wait to see how it works. If you're up for a sim about spooky ghosts, then pick up Tokyo Twilight Ghost Hunters, available now. So, I don't really know what to say about this game. It's a platformer about a girl with a fishing rod. Honestly, I have no idea what's going on in this game. Apparently this is a remake of another popular game that came out, Sayonara Umihara Kawai something. I really don't know. It's a platformer. That's pretty cool. That's not something that we've been seeing a lot recently. And you have a fishing pole that you can use to swing from stuff like Bionic Commando or something like that. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Really, just watching this video is telling you more than I could possibly know about it. There's also something to do with fish or something. I don't know. That makes sense because, fishing rod and fish. Look, April 21st, if you think this looks weird and you want to figure out what's going on, go buy it, okay? I'm done talking about it. Jumping right back into another Neptunia game, we have Hyperdimension Neptunia U Action Unleashed coming out later this year. Something kind of disappointing about this game is it's sort of a ripoff of another game that came out last year called Senran. I don't know if I'm too crazy about that, especially since Senran was kind of a ripoff of Dynasty Warriors. So I don't really know if I necessarily like that. I'm pretty excited to see how they incorporate the characters and how they try to make it into a story. But overall, it's pretty much just going to be Senran Kagura, but with Neptunia characters. For those who happen to not know what Senran is, it's pretty much a fighting game, or a brawler game, more to say, where you beat up hordes of enemies, and if you take too much damage, your clothes start ripping off. I mean, I like Senran and I love Hyperdimension Neptunia, but it's just so bad to just take a game and straight up copy it like this. Even the boob mechanics look exactly the same. So, yeah, I mean, if you like brawlers, Dynasty Warriors, that kind of thing, and you also like Hyperdimension Neptunia, pick this game up when it comes out May 19th. I know I will. So the last couple of years, we've been seeing a lot of popularity in a genre that people thought died about a decade ago, called the dungeon crawler. For a while, dungeon crawlers that were coming out were either super hardcore to the point where nobody really wanted to play them, or they were so kid-friendly that people didn't even want to call them dungeon crawlers. But for the last couple of years, we've been getting a lot of good ones, especially the Etrian Odyssey series that has been thriving for a while now. Admittedly, Operation Abyss New Tokyo Legacy looks kind of boring. It doesn't really bring too much to the table in ways of originality, But this is by the people who brought us Demon Gaze, and Demon Gaze got ridiculously good reviews. I probably won't be picking it up myself, but if you're a dungeon crawler fan, then pick up Operation Abyss and let me know how it is. I might just change my mind. Okay, so I'm a level with you. This is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I love me some Persona 4. I played the PS2 game, I played the Vita game twice, I played both of the fighting games, and I played Persona Q. But Atlas, come on, we've got the 5th game in the series coming up pretty soon, and you're still milking Persona 4, and you've done it in a dancing game now. The saddest part of it is, I can tell by all of the animated cutscenes and stuff, that they're going to try to give this game a story like they did the fighting games and Persona Q. Apparently there's some shadow like making everybody dance crazy, and you dress up your characters and you have to beat them by dancing because you can't just beat them in regular combat for some reason. I don't know. I think there's also some really corny message about always being able to express yourself or something. Regardless of what I say, I'm definitely gonna pick this game up because I'm a Persona 4 fan and I just have to see what they do with it. I'll give you this one more, Atlas. But you're pushing me. On a happier note, holy crap, it is actually happening. Nobody saw this coming, me included. The Shonen Jump fighting game JStars Victory Versus is coming here to America on the Vita and the PS4. In English, who knew? I mean, granted, we still didn't get the English voices, but weebs would totally complain about the English voices anyway, so it's better to have it this way. For those who don't know what JStars Victory Versus is, it's like Budokai Tenkaichi, but with characters from a bunch of different manga series. You've got your big ones like One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto, but you've also got some of the lesser known ones like Medaka Box. I mean, just look at this gameplay. Alright, this game coming out to America is like a dream come true, and we definitely need to support them by buying it. If you're excited for this game at all, then I recommend looking up the review on my channel for it. That review is actually one of my more popular videos, and you might as well take a look. Okay guys, last Neptunia game we have on the list. And honestly, there's not a whole lot to say about it. They're remaking all of the Neptunia games for the Vita. The first 2 are already out, and this is the 3rd and final console Hyperdimension Neptunia game. That will be out on the Vita. For anybody who played the first Hyperdimension Neptunia and just never wants to give it a shot again, try it on the Vita. They went through, they fixed the combat so it's not as boring, and it just plays a lot better on a handheld console. Go pick the other 2 up. I think the second one is still my favorite in the series, and then when this game comes out, you can go ahead and pick that up as well and just experience the entire Neptunia trilogy. Neptunia is branching out and becoming a much bigger name than it was in the past, so getting to know Neptunia right now might be a very good thing. Stupid dancy Persona games aside, Atlas is actually bringing us another game that looks pretty awesome called Lost Dimension. Kind of like the Shin Megami Tensei games, this is an RPG set in the present day with sort of a religious undertone thing, if you want to say that. It's an awesome looking RPG, okay? That's pretty much all you need to know. Atlas has really been delivering lately, and I don't expect this to be an exception. The gameplay reminds me a lot of like Mugen Soul Z and the Hyperdimension Neptunia games, and pretty much most of the modern day turn-based RPGs that are coming out lately. You have a circular grid that you can move inside of, you can sort of tweak yourself to get in range of an enemy for an attack, or one of your own characters for a heal, and so on and so forth. These games can be kind of broken at times because you can just sort of like nudge the control stick towards an enemy and mash on the X button until you actually get in range, but overall I really like this combat system, and I'm pretty excited to see where Atlas takes it in its new adventure. Some people are going to say that this next one is a little bit of a cop-out, and you know what? It might be. I don't care. It's my list. You don't like it? You go make a list. Psh, I'll watch it. By now, pretty much everybody should know what BlazBlue is. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm trying to make stuck-up nerds angry at me. BlazBlue. Everybody should know what BlazBlue is by now. It's a very popular anime-styled fighting game that started a few years ago. The series is going strong, and the Vita has very, very good online capabilities, so I think this is going to find a very, very useful home on the Vita. Personally, I know I played the crap out of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 on the Vita when I first got it, and I really don't think this is an exception. If you really haven't given BlazBlue a chance lately, then I think you should definitely get back into it with this one. I think it's about time we all had some more BlazBlue in our lives. BlazBlue, 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 BlazBlue. Wowie zowie, Atlas is just all over the place today. There's a fun little game coming out soon called Dungeon Travelers 2: The Royal Library and Monster Seal. Honestly, I've never even heard of Dungeon Travelers 1, but this trailer looks like a pretty neat game. This is another example of dungeon crawling coming back into the mainstream, and I'm pretty excited to see where it goes. At first glance, it looks kinda like a Fat Material game, but I looked more into the game and it looks like it might be a pretty challenging and pretty interesting game to get into. Just like before, if you're into the whole dungeon crawling thing, or heck, maybe if you've never really tried dungeon crawling games before, I think this should be a very good one for you to get into it with. We all know we can trust Atlas by now, except when it comes to Persona. And I really think this idea has a lot of potential. Great artwork, dungeon exploration, and just a dash of sex appeal should make this game worth adding to your collection when it comes out in August. Should also give some of us less prepared players a chance to see what Dungeon Travelers 1 was. Okay, so this next game we're about to look at, I'm so excited for, my enthusiasm could cut diamonds. Last year, NIS America gave us 2 amazing games in an amazing game series called Danganronpa. And I have to say it Danganronpa because that's how people say it's supposed to be said, even though the A can only say ah, so it should be Danganronpa, but whatever. For those who happen to miss out on the awesome series last year, it's pretty much a game where a serial killer captures a bunch of kids who are supposed to be like the hope of the nation into a school building and forces them to kill each other. And before you say anything, no, it's not like the Saw series, it's better than the Saw series. Yes, I went there. In the first game, you played as a character named Makoto, and you didn't really get to find out what happened to his family because serial killer was kind of teasing him with his family. But in this game, you actually get to play as his little sister, and you get to team up with one of the popular characters from the first game. Now, the first 2 games were kind of Phoenix Wright-style investigation games, but it looks like they're going for a third-person game here. I don't know how that's going to work. I think it's really neat that instead of giving you a gun and you use like a megaphone and like you sort of shout things into the megaphone. It's a really neat idea, and I want to see where they take it. The Danganronpa series has always been about hope versus despair, and I hope this is a good game. Or I'll just barely play it. Haha, ha, you know you love it. Dengeki Bunko is a fighting game that comes to us from Sega, of all people. It's an anime crossover fighter based on a light visual novel, definitely a rare sight to see. Now, I myself actually own this game for the PS3, and after playing it, I definitely think it's worth picking up. I think I paid way too much for it. I think I ended up paying like $50 to $60 for it. Don't recommend doing that, but it's coming out on the Vita for like $30. Gameplay-wise, this game brings us some unique features like special attacks that can only be used like once or twice a game. It's got a very decent counter system that can punish button mashers, and the character selection is really interesting. The characters range from popular anime such as Sword Art Online to lesser-known anime like Rokyobo and Oreimo. The story's kinda cute too. I guess everybody gets put into like a virtual world and you get to see some of the characters interact with each other as they all try to figure out a way to get out of it, and they fight each other. And the dialogue between them, I've looked up the translations on YouTube, are pretty darn hilarious. If you really just can't wait, then this game is available right now in Japanese on the Japanese market, but I think you should definitely wait till December. Come December, let's all pick up this game, let's see if the online's any good, and let's rock it. It's not every day you get something as weird as this. These last 2 games don't have an official release date, but we do know they're coming out this year, and we do know what quarter they're coming out in, so I decided to put them at the end of the video. It's a reverse harem pigeon dating sim. It's a reverse harem pigeon dating sim. It's a reverse harem pigeon dating sim. I feel like something like this shouldn't exist, but at the same time, I feel like I kinda need it in my life, like right now. There's really not much more to say on it. It's literally a dating sim where you're a girl dating birds. I mean, on the bright side, at least it's reverse harem and you're a girl dating birds, and it's not the other way around, because I don't think any of us want to see any pigeon penetration. But still, it's like the idea is just so like, who thought of this? There's actually a video on YouTube called Hatoful Boyfriend Lore in a Minute, and I watched it to see if explanation made this make a little more sense. But afterwards, I was just like, what? What the fuck? Okay, last game we'll talk about is Valhalla Cyberpunk Bartender Action. Valhalla is a stylistic cyberpunk visual novel, wherein you play a bartender who gets a pretty interesting customer base. From what we can tell of the gameplay, it mainly consists of trying to mix the drinks that will satisfy your customers the best, or maybe fills their requests. I don't know too much, all I know is this game sounds epic. Have you seen the anime Bartender? Bartenders can be pretty darn awesome. I've also heard some things about this being an action game, but I haven't really seen any of the action yet. This game is still being funded as we speak. In fact, if you check out the website in the video description below, you can find a place where you can go and buy a very cheap copy of this game very early. They're also doing a deal where if you throw a few bucks at them, you can unlock the prologue. How cool is that? If this video has piqued your interest at all, I definitely recommend going and checking out the website. And I hope Valhalla is the cyberpunk action that I've been looking for. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end, and I hope you enjoyed my list. Please leave it a like if you enjoyed it, those things really do help us out. Did I forget a game that you're excited for? Leave it in the comment section below. And finally, subscribe to stay up to date on the latest Kudo news. Expect reviews of these games coming out pretty soon. Bye for now!